Transition, ladies and gentlemen. There we go. Welcome to the Surrounded by Details podcast with me, Stevo. I am your host, and Kaila has to put on her headphones. I have to adjust my mic, and I have to turn down the music a little bit, just a little bit, because we enjoy a good background tune.
We love it.
You need to go closer to the phone. You can adjust your microphone. Just a second, ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, we're still learning. I'm still learning.
No worries. Let me help you.
I got it.
There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Please hold your mic because otherwise it's going to tip over. Just hold it down here. Perfect. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Surrounded by Details podcast. As I mentioned, I am Stevo, and on the other side of this microphone is another microphone, including Kaila Krayewski from the Content Castle here in Koh Samui. And with that being said, this episode is also brought to you by the Content Castle of Kaila Krayewski. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm very, very excited to be on the show.
How are you?
I'm very good today, thank you.
Yes, can you go a little bit closer, almost kiss the mic?
Okay.
Yes.
So close, I'm nearly kissing it. Is that better?
That is way better. And Kaila, you invited me over to Koh Samui, a beautiful island in the south of Thailand, because we did a photo shoot today.
We did.
Yes, I enjoyed it a lot. How was it for you?
It was fun. We didn't have the best weather.
Unfortunately, but that happens.
But this is rainy season, so it could have been worse. It could have been monsooning, so we're lucky that at least it wasn't monsooning. And actually, it added a bit of drama to the shoot, didn't it?
It did, actually. And when is rainy season actually officially ending here in Koh Samui?
Well, it's actually officially just starting.
Oh.
So
worst timing ever?
No, actually, October, November would have been worst timing ever. So we're still good. Last year, we were really unlucky. It didn't start until October 15th. So then it went all the way into high season, and it actually kind of just monsooned all year.
Okay.
So,
but what do you do during rainy season? I
mean, that's a really good question.
Well, photo shoots. That's what you do. That's what you do. Hashtag not a native English speaker here on my side, just so you know, in case I sound a little bit German. But you are actually from Canada, correct?
I am from Canada. Yes.
Where from in Canada exactly are you?
So I was born I was born in Burlington in Ontario, and I grew up on Vancouver Island, which is a very beautiful part of Canada. So basically, I'm from both coasts.
Okay. Do you speak French?
I do speak French. Yes, I was in French immersion when I was in school, so I'm not fluent, but I'm pretty good.
Oh, français, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, oui.
Yeah, oui. No matter what language you speak, ladies and gentlemen, dear my fellow listeners and podcaster fans, or just fans of the Content Castle, you can shoot us your questions on YouTube. We have a live chat available for you on the right side of the window. Surprisingly, that doesn't appear. No, here it goes. It appears on my screen as well. So if you have any questions to Kaila, just shoot them over or leave us a comment on Facebook, or just let us know what you know about Kaila, what nobody else knows. Maybe
No,
it's time to reveal some secrets.
I know who's listening. Don't do that. Don't listen to him.
Well, that's the fun about podcasting, especially about being live. But if I see any mysterious questions, I will, of course, not forward them to you. But coming from Canada all the way over in Thailand, podcasting in 2017, when did you come over here?
So I moved over in 2010. So I'm just coming up to my 8th year in Thailand. And first I did a backpacking trip around Southeast Asia, and I was trying to find my perfect island, although I had already been to Koh Samui and Koh Phangan, and I ended up here. First, I was in Bangkok for 2.5 years, and my fiance got a job offer down on Koh Phangan, and we never looked back.
Well, we're gonna talk about your fiance because he has the most incredible, amazing job in human history. I got to know this today. I want to talk about a little bit more about that. It's a shame that he's not here, because there would have been a guy talk immediately, big playground. However, what made Koh Samui the perfect island for you?
Well, Koh Samui wasn't ever really my perfect island. It's a very convenient island because it has an airport. It's very easily accessible. So it's a great place for business. But I personally, me and my fiance live on Koh Phangan. And we really like it there. It's kind of, I was saying to you earlier, it's kind of the Goldilocks island between Koh Samui and Koh Tao. You lived on Koh Tao, so you know Koh Tao is super small. Not a whole lot to do there. Very beautiful. Koh Samui is like Bangkok with beaches, and then Koh Phangan is, as I say, the Goldilocks island. It's got the best of both worlds. Really.
I would also say Koh Phangan is the most known island here down south in
because
Thailand.
of the full moon party.
Yes, that's probably why I never visited. I'm allergic to partying backpackers.
Well, join the club.
Well, but when you arrived 8 years ago, you are 32, so we are basically the same age. It's my birthday in a couple of days, just so you know, ladies and gentlemen.
Happy early birthday.
It's bad luck to say that, actually.
Oh, I didn't know
so
that.
take that back.
Okay, take that back.
Yeah, but we are the same age. So when you came to Thailand, let me do the math, you were 26. Were you a backpacker when you came here, or were you a business traveler?
I was an absolute backpacker. I had absolutely nothing. I came here with no money. I think I borrowed some money off my parents to get my first apartment. And then I just put myself out there and got some writing jobs and went from there. And I ended up getting a great job as editor of a magazine, and that kind of set my path in Thailand, really.
Very interesting, because when I talk about backpacking, there's always something that I think of immediately, and that is to make all my photo equipment fit into a backpack. Now, you started the Content Castle, which is a heaven for writers, because you have kind of a co-working space, you have rooms where people can sleep and enjoy, you have amazing food, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
What was it that you had to have with you in a backpack when you were coming to Southeast Asia 8 years ago?
I absolutely had to. I bought a tiny personal computer, you know, those really small ones that they don't really do them anymore, but they did them back then. And it lasted me for like a year. But I had that with me because I was also working to fund my travels. I was writing for different blogs as I was backpacking around. So that was an essential for me. I also had a camera, which I lost in Vang Vieng.
Heart attack.
Honestly, it had all my photos. I don't know if everyone knows, but Steve-O was just telling me that he had a hostel in Vang Vieng.
In Vientiane.
Oh, Vientiane.
Vientiane. We were extending.
Oh, you were
expanding.
Okay,
sorry.
Okay. Well, anyway, so yeah, I did that little the river
backpacker
route,
loop.
The tubing in Vang Vieng, and I lost everything. I lost my camera, I lost my money.
Well, I don't
had
care.
a little bit too much to drink.
I don't care about losing money or your dignity, but don't lose your camera. That's the most important rule.
I was so gutted because that was, of course, the days before the cloud, right? So nothing was backed up, and I lost a lot of amazing photos.
That's true, actually. Also with writing, because you don't put your writing on a cloud. You write it in a notebook, right?
Well, actually, so we work very much with Google Docs here. So everything updates automatically. So if the internet goes down, the Wi-Fi goes down, everything is backed up automatically. So there's not really an issue with that. That's
smooth sailing. That's something that I should take up on. I'm really bad with archiving because I save everything, and then you have a million hard drives. And you realize, wait a second, there's so much shit I don't really need. So I just recently started to clean my archive and actually really kick myself in the ass and force myself to throw out certain footage that I don't really use. Yeah. But before we get into archiving and writing and all this survivor stuff, we still with you coming to Thailand, actually, because it's one thing to come here for vacation and have a few beers. It's a whole different thing to actually then decide, wait a second, I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
What is it that kept you here in Asia?
Well, I mean, I think I grew up in a very small town in Canada, and I always knew that it wasn't for me. I'm a person that's very much affected by the weather and by the sun, and when the sun is shining, I feel happy, and when it's rainy and cloudy, I feel sad. It's it's a pretty common sort of feeling, but I get affected by it a lot more than most people. So I always knew I needed to live somewhere tropical. And as soon as I visited Thailand, my parents and I came straight to Koh Samui and Koh Phangan. I was living in Japan at the time, and I fell in love with it. And I knew one day I would live here.
That's very interesting. Did you ever have anything that you knew from the beginning? Okay, this is really something that's going to be hard to live with. For me, mosquitoes.
I mean, yes, I will say when I moved, I've always sort of fallen right into a group of friends wherever I've gone, which has been really handy. And when we moved to Copenhagen, I had neither of us, me nor Fraser nor I, had any friends. So that was the biggest hurdle. Just, you know, especially
to make friends.
Well, just because a lot of people are strange. No offense, Copenhageners, but a lot of people on that island are weird, and it's hard to find normal people.
What do you consider normal?
Well, like, I mean, just someone who's not, let's say, like an escaped axe murderer, or not that I meet loads
How
of them.
many of those did you meet?
But like, you know what I mean? Just some people are, well, okay, a lot of people are really self-absorbed, for example, on the island.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even say, how are you? They just launch straight into talking about themselves.
Yes.
And I can only be bothered with that for so long. I'm a good
Hashtag
listener.
guilty.
Are you?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay.
No, but I know what you mean, and often it's all. I don't know, maybe I switch subject now, but you run this beautiful place, and as you mentioned, I had a hostel in Vientiane, I had a resort on Koh Tao as well, and you meet a lot of people. I always take this example. My audience is probably tired by now of it because I mentioned it a few times, but one time in Vientiane, we had this guy coming in on a bicycle, and he was checking in, and he was a little bit cocky, and I was like, where are you from? Yeah, I'm from Germany. I bike around the world. So, okay, I put you in the Yellow Dome. And this is no joke. This actually happened. 10 minutes later, we get another dude coming in on a bicycle, also a little bit cocky. Where are you from? Yeah, well, I'm from Britain. What do you do? I bike around the world. So a lot of people think they're really special, and you realize how normal you are, you know? And there's a lot of people, you have the cliches when it comes to backpacking, like the backpacker loop, the head bun.
Which I'm guilty of as well.
Me
I didn't
too.
do the head bun.
Well, most guys do.
Yeah.
I can show you
Now.
pictures. Damn it. I had a big head bun, that's for sure.
No.
But I got rid of it a long time ago. But however, normal people and weird people are hard to separate. But I totally agree, there's a lot of weird people out there, and a lot of people who just don't know who they are, and a lot of stupid people as well. It always depends on the situation. I consider myself in certain situations I'm a really stupid person as well, so yeah.
I think everybody is in certain situations.
I totally agree.
As long as you can acknowledge it, it's fine.
Yeah, I had this one story. I was in Sweden. I was visiting my parents, and I took a break from work for 3 months. So I cut off all my contacts to my friends. I was just really enjoying the forest because my parents live in the middle of nowhere. And then when I had a job in Zurich, I had a layover in Düsseldorf in Germany. And a very good friend of mine used to live in Düsseldorf at the time. So when I came there, she said, okay, we're going to go out party. There were a lot of her friends as well. So went out and party. And I'm not really a big drinker. So I took it a little bit too hard. And then, they were up dancing. And I was outside. I was having a cigarette. And I thought, okay, just act normal and then go back inside.
Yeah.
So when I finished my cigarette, and I wanted to go back inside. You know that situation when you meet somebody and you both want to go to the left and then you both want to go to the right?
Yeah,
that
and
happened
it's really
to me.
awkward.
Exactly, it's super awkward. And I stood there for like 30 seconds and we both swished back and forth. And then I realized, wait a second, that dude wears the same hat as me. And it was myself in the mirror picture. I was not even standing in front of the door. I was in the window. So yeah, in that scenario, I was a really stupid one. But at least I
I'm
entertained.
surprised you can remember that.
Well, I got told, and funny things I always remember.
Okay.
But this podcast is not about me. We should go back to you.
Okay.
Why am I telling all the embarrassing stories here?
I'm not gonna tell you about my drunk embarrassing stories.
Well, just wait a second.
I'm a professional businesswoman.
Well, we're having a little drink here on the side.
We are having a beer while we're
So
doing
life
it.
is all about enjoying, especially on an island.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
yeah, so once again, I wanted to thank you because you actually got me out of the office.
Yeah, well, it's our pleasure to
away
have you
from
down
laptop.
here. Definitely.
So when you decided to stay in Asia, and then you decided to come to Koh Samui and to Koh Phangan, and did you ever realize, okay, this is gonna be forever, or was it more year by year by year? Because that is something that I experience with myself and also a lot of other people. They say, okay, 3 more months, 4 more months, and then it just keeps on going and going and going.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, I think both my fiance and I, we always said to ourselves, okay, like, we don't want to become island weirdos, because there's a lot of people that have been on Koh Phangan for a really, really long time. Or even, you could say the same about Koh Samui, Koh Tao probably, I don't know. And they get this kind of strange mentality that you can barely really have a conversation with them. They're just so integrated into the island, and they're very gossipy and whatever. So we never wanted to become like that. So I always said, we need to have a game plan. We can't stay here forever. But the thing is, although I'm from Canada, my mom lives in Mexico. So moving back to Canada wouldn't really ever be something I would be into. I mean, even if my mom was there, more so, yes, but it's not really an option for me. My fiance's from Scotland. Not really into the idea.
How do you guys communicate? That's the question. How do you communicate?
Well, he's toned down his accent a lot.
Okay, that's lucky.
Much more international now, as is mine. Not that mine was ever difficult to understand, but I just sounded so freaking Canadian before.
Well, you just apologize all the time. It's all good.
Sorry about that.
Why is that? Why do Canadians always apologize for everything? I
don't know. You know what? This is a stereotype that I only learned when I moved abroad. I didn't even know it because I think I was just so used to it. And we're so polite. I remember when I lived in Brighton near London, and I was walking down the street. And in Canada, it's so normal when you're walking down the street, you nod and say hello to everyone that you see. Everyone. And if you don't do it, it's really impolite. And so I like it too. And so I was doing that in Brighton, and people were looking at me as if I had two heads, I swear.
What's going on with her?
like
is she trying to kill me?
Yeah, exactly. So I just stopped doing it, and I turned into like a Londoner, and I didn't like that. And here it's much more friendly like that, and I like that.
How would you describe your development as a human being ever since you came to Asia?
Well, that's a really good question because I've been so many different places. Japan definitely toned me down because I'm a very sort of eccentric, exuberant kind of person, and that's not really accepted from a woman, not even really from a man so much. And especially a tall blonde woman, as I was at the time, not as blonde anymore. Anyway, so I guess it made me more respectful. It's definitely made me more cultured, of course. That only makes sense. And of course, again, opened my mind as well in terms of, meeting people from all different corners of the world. That's one of the coolest things about living where we do, is that it's not just the Thai culture that we learn. It's, all the different people that we meet, all the places that we're from.
The drunken Irish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, but I'm happy that you mentioned your mind, because I shortly just want to go into that real quick. That was a brilliant sentence. The picture I chose for your thumbnail, I've been thinking of what you said about this. Do you think that thumbnail really fits me, or do you think it looks that I'm asleep? And I actually don't think so. And yes, I made notes about this because I think it sounds brilliant. I just have to say it on air because it makes me sound so smart.
Oh, I love
I think you look a little bit dreamy, and Content Castle fits to that picture because you create content in your head, in your mind, and your mind is your own castle. And as a freelance writer, I can always imagine that you value the freedom that you have in your mind, and it's not always easy when you work for different clients because you have to adapt sometimes. Is that a big problem as a freelance writer? Complete subject switch here, but I wonder about that.
So the question...
My question is it difficult for a writer to adapt to what your clients want sometimes? Because they always have a certain style, you cannot write freely for a business magazine. They want business style. Yeah,
I mean... we were talking about this earlier. We definitely have to adapt to our clients' style, their tone, their wording. I mean, there's different forms of English. A lot of people don't know there's a difference between UK English and American English in terms of writing and whatnot. So, I mean, I definitely have my own style. If I'm writing just for myself, then I use that style. I always put my stamp on anything, and I don't do it intentionally. It just happens.
It's your style.
Yeah, exactly. It's like any artist I could imagine. But we definitely do our best to emulate what our clients are looking for. But I think when we put our stamp on it, that makes it more authentic. It makes it seem less like we're just monkeys.
And most of the time, that's also the reason why people hire you, because they like the style you write.
Exactly. I mean, we've all been trained in a certain certain way. We've all got a certain amount of experience, and so adding our own voice to it, I think, just as I say, makes it feel more authentic and makes it feel more real.
Why did you choose writing? Why not photography or videography or painting or any other art form? What was it with writing that attracted you the most?
Okay, quite frankly, what I originally wanted to do, I didn't really understand how TV news journalism worked. So I wanted to just be that person in front of the camera on TV that read the news.
Teleprompter and stuff.
Yeah, read the teleprompter, and that's what I wanted to do. And then when I went to journalism school, I realized that actually you have to learn how to write before you can do that.
That's a big advantage.
Yeah. So, and I hated it at first. I really didn't enjoy it, although I did write before that. But then journalism school really taught me how to find my own voice and how to enjoy writing. And I developed a love of writing. And by the end, I didn't even have much of a desire to be on TV anymore. I wanted to write. And that's really where it came from my own vanity.
How long? Oh no, let me phrase this differently. You think you have a bigger freedom in writing because you can take your time than it is actually to be in front of a TV?
Well, you definitely have more freedom in writing because you're the one who's writing. I think if you're in front of a TV and you're reading a teleprompter, there's no freedom, really. I mean, unless you're someone who's allowed to do sort of improv speaking.
Yeah, like Anchorman.
Yeah, yeah, just like that. Well, yeah. There's no freedom in it, and I'm really glad that wasn't the path that I ended up going down because that's not me at all.
Do you see yourself writing for the rest of your life, or you want to try different things?
Definitely. I can see myself writing my memoirs when I'm like 85 or 90, however long I live.
Oh, now you go into
on
a
my
subject.
Deathbed.
Now you go into a subject. Have you already written your death letter when you die one day?
No.
I know.
What?
Too little people talk about death.
Letter?
Yeah. No, I haven't. But I'm just. I don't know. I forgot the name of the author, and he really inspired me to actually go out traveling because he got sentenced, for better lack of word, with cancer, and he started to actually write his book, or not he, but he sit down with his son, and then he started to tell his whole life to his son. Yeah. And sometimes when you write, or when you do some sort of art, in my case photography, of course I do it because I want to share stuff I see, stuff I experience, but on the other hand I also want to influence people. You know, I want to inspire them for traveling, and I want to see them, I want them to see certain things as I do, because not everything that you see on the news or that you read in the news is true nowadays.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are not close enough to actually experience it. So yes, for me as an artist, I can definitely say I would like to leave something behind.
Yeah.
That's my biggest goal as a photographer.
But let's not call it a death letter.
I better lack of words, I'm sorry. But do you ever see yourself somebody reading a speech at your deathbed one day that you wrote?
I've honestly not thought about it, but as I say, I definitely always thought of myself like I think I will never retire. I'm a workaholic, as you said that you are.
#workaholic.
So I can't ever see myself stopping working ever. So, but I love what I do. I love writing. So why would I ever stop doing that? And
but you need to switch somewhere. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to switch somewhere. This is where I have some troubles the last couple of months between doing what you love, which is work in our case, but you also need to take time off. You need to enjoy the island. I mean, where do you make the switch? You live on an island. Where do you make the switch between work and actually, I'm going to go to the beach?
Well, it's really interesting that you say that, because that was part of the reason probably why I didn't make friends my first couple of years when I lived on Koh Samui. And like Fraser and I moved down here. Fraser's my fiance. We moved down to Koh Samui with absolutely no money once again. So we didn't even have money to go and enjoy ourselves. But even things like going to the beach, I was working so much because I so badly wanted to make a name for myself that I was just was looking at my screen all the time, and I just noticed when we had friends come down to visit that I would take them to the beach, I would take them to the waterfalls, I would take them around on the bike and whatever, and I would enjoy myself and I would finally feel happy. So I said, why do we only do this when we have people visiting? We should do this just for us.
All the time.
So now I actually like schedule like happy time in. Yeah.
Sorry, I was interrupting that.
No, that's okay. So now, I make an effort to schedule in like time for things that make me happy. Going to the beach. I like to go to yoga. Once in a while, I'll go paddle boarding or whatever. And I've started like enjoying playing pool and.
Thank you, Paul.
Whatever else. So now I've learned that it's not enough to just sit at my computer all day and stare at a screen. I need to make time to make myself happy.
That's self-awareness.
And that's why I moved here.
That's self-awareness and the discipline for your own freedom. And the reason why you hesitated a little bit, because I was just making a sign to Paul, who is hiding there in the back at the fridge, serving us delicious drinks. A cool character you have in here as well. We were talking on the rooftop, and Paul, man, you need to come on the podcast at one point in time. He's just making gestures. No way.
Paul doesn't like his own voice.
Well, we're gonna make you like it. No, I'm just joking. Writing and freedom, let me rewind it. When you started writing, every artist struggles with the same thing. A lot of people want experienced people at a young age, which is impossible. So how did you make your way to actually getting your work published? Did you just say yes to everything, or did you take a different route?
Well, I actually started out with a website called Blonde Traveler, and I had a blog while I was traveling around Southeast Asia. I was one of the first female travel bloggers in Southeast Asia to do that. Now there's a gazillion. And I mean, it never really took off in the way that I had anticipated, and I ended up shutting it down and whatever. But that was sort of how I started getting my writing out there. And then because I have my journalism degree, and then I got the job as editor for a luxury travel magazine, that really kind of carved out my niche in Bangkok. And then everyone kind of, everybody was inviting me to every event, free booze, free food,
tough life.
It was
tough
awesome.
life.
I was so gutted when the magazine went under. Unfortunately, it just wasn't making enough money. So then I had to pick a different route, and then once I had that under my belt, then I could say, look, I was editor of a luxury travel magazine. Can I write for your website or for your blog or for whatever? And usually they would say yes, but what ended up happening is I moved into marketing because there was more money in it. So writing press releases and doing social media and things like that. But now I've started to come back out of it because I realized marketing is not my passion. Writing is. That's why I started the Content Castle.
But that's a devil loop, because you realize that the stuff that you want to do doesn't necessarily bring the money, so you need to adapt to the game. I always say, in order to change the game, you need to learn to play the game. And
That's
once you can play it, you can change it. So it's very tricky when you're young, and I include myself. It's very tricky to find the best balance between, okay, I have to do that in order to actually accomplish what I want to do. And you have to force yourself sometimes. But you started online very early, though.
Yes,
so
I did. Yeah.
How come? Because a lot of people refuse to actually go online.
Well, basically what happened was I was in Brighton, and I'd made the decision to quit my job, which was actually paying me really well. So it was a hard decision to make. And I made the decision to quit my job and to go backpacking around Southeast Asia. And when I broke the news to my parents, my mom was completely behind me, and my dad was convinced that I would be kidnapped for ransom. And he was like, we don't have enough money to pay your ransom, so you're probably going to be killed. So he was,
not our fault, it's your fault.
Yeah, he was really concerned. So I was looking up like female travel blogs, girls who have done it before, especially on their own, to reassure him and to reassure myself, because he made me a bit nervous. And I couldn't find anything, nothing.
So just go with it.
So then I thought to myself, well, if I can't find anything, there's probably other people looking this up as well. Why don't I start something? And so that was why I ended up doing it, because I thought, well, if there's nothing online, then at least I can help other people. by experiencing it myself.
Shout out to my female friend Arati, who is traveling Mexico at the moment, all by herself, and she told me she had the same differences with some of her friends and parents that they were very afraid of.
Well, Mexico is actually a pretty dangerous
I know, but
place.
I didn't tell her. I just said, go. You know what you're doing. Just go.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, you cannot think negative all the time, you know. If you just keep on thinking on the negative things, you wouldn't even leave your door. And there is actually a bigger chance that you get killed, coming back to death here again. I'm sorry, but there's a bigger chance that you get killed by yourself in the kitchen than there is actually out there. But of course, it's so intense that you always hear about it on the news. It's the same with the plane crash. Flying is the most safest transportation there is, but when something happens, there's a bunch of people going down, you know.
Well,
so
that's it.
Literally, pun intended.
And it's such a scary thing to think about, you know, and it makes people develop such a fear of it. Whereas I think car crashes, because you have to drive. I mean, you don't have to fly everywhere. A lot of people have never flown before, but not a lot of people have never been in a car before.
That's true.
It's kind of like you have to do it, right? Just like getting on a bike here. Because quite frankly here, I mean, we're lucky enough to now have a car, but before that, for 5 years, our only mode of transportation was scooters, and those are super dangerous.
Especially for backpackers who come to Asia, don't have a driver license, and then they don't realize you can't brake in the middle of a turn when there's sand on the road. I could tell millions of stories about that.
Especially not when you've had like 400 Changs.
401 actually, but that's true. But I want to go back to flying because that interests me as always. There's a bunch of questions I always ask to the same questions I ask to every person. Okay. When you fly, is that something where you can relax, where you can actually get work done?
Totally.
Me too.
I am the worst sleeper in my own bed. As soon as I'm on public transportation, I just fall asleep. I don't know. It must be the vibrations or whatever it is. I am such a good sleeper on any mode of transportation. I can, like, the most awkward position you can imagine, I can do it.
That's hilarious with kids, by the way.
Yeah.
They can sleep upside down. They don't care. It's really funny. I actually had a flight from Kuala Lumpur back to Bangkok, I think it was last year, and I'm not afraid of flying, and I don't mind turbulences because knowledge is power. Once you know why turbulences happen, you realize, okay, it's actually not that bad, and a lot of pilots would fly through bigger turbulences if it wouldn't be for the comfort of the guests.
Yeah, that's right.
However, we hit a big I don't know how we say it, a hole, so the plane
like an air pocket or something?
Yeah, air pocket, so the plane was just sinking.
I don't really know.
Really, really bad. And I had a kid next to me, and my first reaction, I saw the kid almost started crying, so I raised my hands and I was saying, woo! And then
awesome.
And then I looked around me and I saw his parents, and I just turned to the parents and I said, we're probably not going to make it. So I
did not say that.
I love to fuck with people on a plane. It's the most hilarious thing.
You can't say that on a plane.
Actually, a friend of mine, you know, in the beginning when an airplane takes off, there's always the pilot introducing himself, like, yeah, my name is blah, blah, blah. And then my friend, because he's afraid of flying, he always gets drunk. And when he gets drunk, he's the most hilarious person I can think of.
Oh, cool.
And as soon as he hears the name of the pilot, he goes like, oh, no, not him again.
Oh, no.
So there's a bunch of funny stuff that you can do, but there's also a bunch of stuff you shouldn't do in an airplane. So with that being said, let's go back to writing. Have you ever written a book?
So I've started three different books, and never finished them. I've still got one that I plan to go back to. It's called Dawns of Copenhagen. And I've been writing it on an application called Wattpad, which allows my friends to sort of follow along. Every chapter I publish, they read it, and I've been getting really positive feedback. But actually, we had one of my writing mentors come down to the Content Castle when we first opened. And he read my book, and he tore it to pieces. He not literally, obviously, but he was basically he was like, you have to rewrite the whole thing. So then I was like, I just kind of lost all motivation because I put so much time and effort into it. And I was 100 pages in, which is really like. And when he was like, you need to rewrite this and you need to rewrite that, and I was like, okay, so I need to rewrite the whole thing, and I just haven't had the energy to do it.
That sucks,
I think I will one day. That's once we get this place really established and, you know, running like a well-oiled machine, I can sit down and rewrite my book from scratch. I'll be okay with that. But right now it's way too overwhelming to even think about.
But it can be a dangerous turning point, because a lot of people wouldn't become who they are. Let's talk about Muhammad Ali, Bob Marley, all the big people, Einstein, who really influenced life. They wouldn't have accomplished what they accomplished if they would have listened to a certain person at a certain time. They decided to go the other way.
Yeah.
How do you decide when to listen to criticism and when not?
Well, basically, because so the mentor that I'm talking about his name is Gopi, C.Y. Gopinath. I hope you're listening, Gopi. Anyway, so I told him, I was like, well, you know, all my friends like it, and I've been getting such positive feedback. Are you sure? And he was like, well, your friends are always going to tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're even though I genuinely believe that my friends weren't just sort of like, you know, trying to pat me on the back and whatever. I think they were genuinely into it, but I don't think they were looking at it from a publisher's perspective. I know they weren't, because I don't know any publishers, so so that's for sure. So he was basically looking at it from a publisher's or an agent's perspective and being like, this will never get published as it is. And that's the aim of the book. I mean, as much as I want my friends to read it and enjoy it, I'm writing it to ideally get published one day. That's my goal. So.
But it's so confusing, because you never know. Taste is different from individual to individual.
Yeah, and I mean, to be in fairness to him, he did also tell me that he had one book, Travels with the Fish, I think it was, and he said that he had a friend who told him to completely rewrite it in a different perspective. It was either he had it in third person and he flipped it to first person, and then he already had an agent for his book, and he sent it back to his agent, rewrote the whole thing in a different perspective, which added like a whole bunch of new elements to it. It's really difficult to do. And then his agent said, you completely fucked your book. And he was like, no.
It's like stabbing yourself.
Yeah, he was like, why would you listen to your friend who knows nothing about anything other than like he knows what he likes to read and whatever? Yeah. And why would you not just listen to me? I'm your agent. Yeah. So then Gopi went back and he rewrote it from the perspective it was originally, but he said that was actually an amazing exercise for him, because he managed to add in all kinds of extra details by writing it from a different perspective. So when he flipped it back into the different to the original perspective, he added in all the extra details and colors that were not in the original copy, and it actually made the book that much better. But he rewrote it 3 times.
This is where I would like to refer to somebody I not recently, it has been a couple of weeks ago. I don't know are you familiar with the name Sarah Knight?
No.
She's an author, and she had a TED Talk, and she was talking about a fuck budget. You need to sort out your fuck budget, what to give a fuck about and what not to give a fuck about. Because you can only care about a certain amount of stuff. Otherwise you get overwhelmed and you will never get anywhere. How well is your fuck budget managed?
Not well.
Not well? Are you a person that cares about everything?
A lot of things.
You're Canadian. You're Canadian. You're too kind for your own good. That's bad habit.
No, I do. I probably need to get better at fuck budgeting. But
it's a really interesting TED Talk. You should check it out. Actually, from earlier this year, April 12th, 2017, The Magic of Not Giving a Fuck. Cool. But coming back to you, now you told me about the Dongs von Koh Samui. What was your second book?
So it was actually, that's my most recent book. The book before that, I never even named it. It was basically it was sort of an amalgamation of my tales from my backpacking trip around Southeast Asia. And before that, when I was in grade 6, I wrote what I thought was going to be a top seller, Terror on the Ice. I was a figure skater.
Oh.
Little known fact about me. So
it slowly comes out.
And I remember I was, it was the days before computers, so I was writing it out in pencil on bits of paper, and I was passing it around, and all my classmates couldn't wait for the next chapter to come out. And I really hope I have a copy laying around somewhere, but given that it was in pencil on paper in 1996, I'm assuming that it's probably gone.
Are you a hoarder? Do you keep everything?
I keep everything.
So it should be somewhere.
It should be. But the thing is, I've moved so much, and my mom's moved so much, and there's honestly, I think I have about 3 boxes, massive boxes with my diaries and with all kinds of stuff somewhere in Canada, and I cannot remember who I left them with because I moved them around to so many different friends. So if you're listening and you have my boxes,
send them.
Let me know.
Yes, send them to the Surrounded by Details podcast so we can publish them and make millions of dollars. You never know. Maybe in 100 years somebody discovers that all the other shit got lost, and then everybody just reads history from your perspective.
Yeah, maybe.
But a more important question, why did figure skating never work out for you?
Well, I'm far too tall. I never had the body for it. I wanted to be a gymnast, and my parents said absolutely not because I didn't have the body for it. So then I said, okay, well, I want to be a figure skater. And I think they just at that point didn't have the heart to tell me that.
Or they were just tired of telling you, nah, I can't do that. Can't do that either. No, that doesn't work either.
Yeah. So I think they just didn't have the heart to tell me, or they were too exhausted to tell me. So I did it for about 7 or 8 years, skating like 5 hours a day, 6 days a week, sometimes 7.
It's pretty intense though.
It was really intense. And I mean, it was really difficult for me because everyone got so much better than me so much quicker because of their body types. You know, I have a high center of gravity being tall. Which did not bode well for me when I was doing my jumps and constantly falling and
Well, maybe it's the falling that kind of fucked it up.
That was the part that screwed me.
I'm German, and I moved to Sweden in my younger years with my parents, so I really suck on ice hockey or skating in general compared to Swedish people. But then I discovered there's a little ice skating place here in Bangkok. In the middle of the mall, and I was the king there because no Thai.
Is it not plastic ice?
No, it's real ice.
It's real ice?
Yeah, it's real ice. And I really enjoyed it, and I felt like the king for 5 minutes, even though nobody else was on the ice. I felt like, look at me, people, I can do it, and you can't. I always wanted to become a jet pilot, but that's why my height ruined it for me. I'm 192, 6'3", for the people from #America. So I'm too tall to be a jet pilot.
Oh, I didn't know that you couldn't be a certain height.
Paul, what was your biggest dream to become as a small kid? Do you remember? Archaeologist,
oh,
interesting.
Wow.
I should introduce you to a friend, Benjamin. He is also a writer, and he writes a lot about archaeology. So it's never too late, man. It's never too late. So for all you people, out there, maybe one day you find the diaries of Kaila. You never know. Everything works out. But have your parents ever come over here and visit because they told you no, and not of a bad reason, I'm pretty sure, but for me, it always makes me proud a little bit because my parents didn't really believe you can make money out of photography, and it always makes me proud when you actually accomplish something. Look, I took photos of this guy, or I got published here. Do you rub it in your parents' face? Because I do, for sure.
No, God, not at all. My parents have been so supportive of me. I'm an only child. Well, I'm not an only child, but it's a bit of a complicated history that we won't go into. But anyway, I have half sisters. Anyway, but my parents have been so supportive and so encouraging, and I know that my mom's listening right now. Hi, Mom.
Hello, Mom.
I've never had to rub it in their face because they love to rub it in their friends' faces. That's what they love to do.
I like your parents. That's fun. Yeah, my family works a little bit different. If we accomplish something that nobody else believed in, we rub it in their face and we make sure it stays there. Very competitive.
Well, my mom and my dad, but especially my mom, my mom always believed that I could be Prime Minister of Canada. She believed that I was going to be a world figure skating champion. She believed, she's always thought that I would be the best at every single thing I would do.
A figure skating world champ who is Prime Minister. That would have been the ultimate combination. But to answer my question, have they ever come over here and visited?
Yes. So the last time they came over was about 5 years ago, I believe. They came over for Christmas, and we had a wonderful time. And now my mom's coming back over this December, so we're really excited about that.
What do you feel about celebrating Christmas in Southeast Asia and the tropics?
I mean, it's not the same. I was actually just talking about this last night with my girlfriends. And they have kids, so it's a bit different for them. But it's really not the same. I mean, you can try to build a sand man instead of a snowman. You can try to make a Christmas tree out of a palm tree. But it's just, when you're sweating under your Santa hat, it's not. It doesn't have the same ambiance, let's say. I realized the other day I haven't seen snow in at least 10 years, over a decade.
Wow, that's something I miss.
Canada.
I grew up in Sweden. I know exactly what you're talking about. That's actually something I miss too. I miss snow. I miss just putting on skis or skates, no matter how good I am at it or not. Just the feeling of actually being cold and then coming back into the heat in front of
the fireplace.
You hear me, woman?
Wine.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
it's just, and then you have glögg or grog.
I don't know what that is.
You don't know grog?
It sounds like a made-up word.
It's the kind of wine thing that you drink during Christmas. It's like hot tea.
Oh, it's a mulled wine.
Yeah, but it's hot.
Is it alcoholic?
It's super alcoholic.
Okay.
It's like super alcoholic.
Then it's probably not mulled wine.
So you come out from the cold, then you get into the heat, and then you drink a grog, and then you basically out and do whatever you want. Maybe you go take a bath in the middle of the ice lake. That's something that you do in Sweden. I don't know if you guys do that in Canada.
No, that's just something you do in Sweden.
But you have sauna, right?
We have saunas, but they're like Swedish saunas. They're like we don't really do anything original in Canada.
You just follow whatever everybody else does.
Well, I mean, we're all, except for the natives, of course, we're all imported, right? I mean, I'm a mutt. Every Canadian's a mutt, pretty much. I'm Polish, Ukrainian, Irish, French, and whatever else. So, we take our roots and we incorporate a bit of Canada into them, which is basically skiing, beer, poutine, and...
Wait, are we going to Russia now? Politics, Putin? What are we talking about? Poutine. Okay, I know what you're talking about. I'm so deep shit into South Park lately, and they were making fun of it. However, once again, it's time to turn the wheel. Let's go back to your writing. Where did you get your biggest inspiration from? Or who serves as a big inspiration for you?
I mean, the books I read when I was growing up, my mom introduced me to, her favorite book was Clan of the Cave Bear. And that's a lot of people's favorite books I've come to learn. And I read a lot as a child, and it inspired me so much. I would say that was my major inspiration. But then once I started writing and then seeing people actually loving what I was writing, that for me was one of the biggest motivators to keep doing what I was doing. I mean, I'm sure you could say the same for anything. Your podcast, would you still do it if people didn't listen? Probably not.
I agree.
Yeah. So I mean, it really, it's a huge boost for me when people say, "Wow, you're really good at what you do," and I try to be humble about it, but I'm like, yeah, okay.
No, you got to show some pride sometimes. You got to be proud of what you accomplished. Don't be proud of where you're from, because that's just the luck of DNA, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, I just said that. I quoted George Carlin here, because I never get people who say, I'm proud to be American, I'm proud to be German, or wherever you're from. It's a random luck of DNA where you're from. You should be proud of something that you actually accomplished yourself. But now I lost my question I had for you here.
You were talking about writing inspiration.
And then you were talking about reading books, and then I was going to ask you, what do you actually prefer? Reading books, listening to audiobooks, because I know you were really into podcasts as well.
Yeah.
And or Kindle.
I don't like Kindle.
High five.
Totally don't like it. So I spend, as a lot of people do, especially in my industry, I spend all day looking at a screen. So when I want to read, and this is why we have a library upstairs full of paperback or hardcover books. When I want to sit down and read, I want to pick up I don't even want to say the word old-fashioned, but like a proper book. I don't want to look at a screen anymore. And the thing is, with the old Kindles, it really felt like you were still reading a book, because they had this special print that it didn't feel like a screen. But the new Kindles are very much, it's like a tablet.
But for me, when I buy a book, and I really like to read biographies, so I when I go into a bookstore, I first of all, it's the same with everything for me. Is it a book or something I want to eat or clothes? I need to see it, and that needs to hit my mind, and this is what I want. I don't want to spend hours and hours looking for what I want.
Oh, really?
It needs to hit me.
Oh, really?
So then, once I found that, I take the book, I feel it, and then I smell it, because the smell of a fresh book, there is nothing better. And Kindle, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
You can't compare.
I'm totally with you. But I have to say, one of the biggest joys for me in creating the Content Castle was actually curating our what we call the Best Books Ever collection. And so what I did was I put up a post on Facebook saying, what was the best book you ever read? And
Shantram.
Yes, high five on that.
Paul,
Awesome.
air high five, because we talked about it before.
Such
Boom.
a freaking good book.
Yes.
Definitely my top 3. Anyway, so a lot of the books that people responded, I had never even heard of. So there's tons of used bookstores. I mean, there's way more used bookstores than there are new bookstores around here, and the books are cheap. So I went around to all the different bookstores with my list and looked for these books, and I spent hours in these used bookstores, hours upon hours, and I loved every second of it.
So let's go into your top 5 here. What are your top 5 books?
Okay, so Clan of the Cave Bears, number 1. Number 2 is probably Shantaram.
Okay, so you moved that already from number 3 to number 2.
Yeah, well, I said it's in my top 3.
Pressure.
And then I'm rereading now because I remembered loving the Poisonwood Bible. I'm now rereading it.
What's that about?
So it's about a Christian family that I think it's set in around 1950s, and they go on a mission to the Congo, and it's this preacher who has 4 daughters and a wife, and it's all about, and then the Congo, at the time they're ruled by Belgium, and then they become independent, and that's actually where the book's at now. I have a terrible memory when it comes to books and movies, so it's like rereading it. It's like reading it for the first time for me. Like I really don't remember any of it. I mean, to be fair, I read it 20 years ago, so. But yeah, I remember absolutely loving it. So I'm waiting I'm kind of like halfway through, and I'm kind of waiting for it to get really, really good, because I feel like I remember there's a twist coming up, and
Aren't you afraid of disappointment?
I am a little bit, but I reread Clan of the Cave Bear recently, and I was not disappointed in the slightest. I loved it even more than I did the first time.
Do you have people walking into the content castle, and then they read a certain book, I don't know, biography of Justin Bieber, and you say immediately, go out, never come back, leave this place and go wherever you want, but never come back?
I think if a resident brought in the biography of Justin Bieber, I think
really
we would have some problems with that. Yeah.
Oh man, that would be hilarious.
I don't know if we'd kick them out. We try to be open-minded here. Maybe it's written by someone, like, as long as it's not written by Justin Bieber himself, who is a good songwriter, I'm sure.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Surrounded by Details podcast with Kaila. I'm just kidding. Whoa, strong words there.
Well, I mean, he became famous for a reason. I'm sure, a lot of people like his songs, but I can't imagine him writing a good book. So, I mean, for me, reading is all about reading really good writing that's then going to inspire my writing or their writing. So it's really important to read books that are written by authors that really know what they're doing.
But that's reading on a different level, because you don't only read a book in a way that you think the author meant it or how you take it. You read it in a way of what is the best things that I can take from that to actually put it into my writing. This
is how my mind works.
That's a very aware way of reading books. My hat's off. Unfortunately, I have my headphones on, so I can't really take off my hat, but you get the idea. However, I want to go back, because we talked about audiobooks and Kindle and really having a book. Something that I got more friendly with lately is actually, now I shoot myself in the foot here, because I was just talking about Justin Bieber biography, and I'm talking to somebody who knows how to write and how to appreciate real books. I was listening to the biography of, what's his face again? Small comedian.
Danny DeVito?
No, good comedian, by the way, but not the book I was thinking of, Kevin Hart.
Okay.
Kevin Hart. And that is for the first time where I realized it's so much more fun to listen to the person itself of the biography actually reading it, because when you listen to that book, it's like a big stand-up show. It's just hilarious, and you you really get stuck. So I'm a little bit more friendly towards audiobooks, which I never really was until I heard that one.
Well, I have to say, my fiance and I recently started listening to the audio version of Shantaram. We've both read the book and we both loved it. And the thing is, I don't know if you'll agree with this, but in my opinion, Prabhu is the best book character ever written. Ever.
So wait a second. Why can you separate the best book from the best book character?
Because Prabhu...
Isn't one the other?
If anyone's listening that has read Shantaram, they'll agree with me. Prabhu was the best book character
You're
ever.
judging my audience.
I'm that confident. But the really cool thing about the audio version, which we found on YouTube, so it's free, is that the guy does all the voices and he nails Prabhu's voice. Like it's better than I heard it in my head.
Yeah?
It's so good.
Oh, now you set the standard so high. I don't want to listen to it, but I need to.
No, I don't want to do that. Yeah, no, you should.
Another book that I've got into with audiobooks, I read the book at first, and I know now I sound like a dick. I sound like one of those people who goes into the movie and just screams, "Oh, the book was so much better than a movie." But you know the book He's Back?
No.
It's a book about Hitler coming back, getting reborn in 2015, but he doesn't realize. You have read it, right? It's funny as fuck. And it's also sad because you realize there's so little things that really have changed. Like it just changed the perspective a little bit, but it's the same thing going on. And constantly when you read the book, you read in Hitler's broken German English accent and then you hear the book. It's so hilarious. I can only recommend it for everybody who's into history and comedy and who knows how to not take things too serious. That is a book I would definitely recommend.
So it's called He's Back.
He's Back, yeah. You will know the book when you see it.
Okay.
Trust me.
Cool.
The cover
I'll
is recognizable. Look who's back, sorry.
Oh, it's written in
I don't
German?
remember the German because they made a movie about it. Paul is speaking from the back of the room. We're discussing the book. But I actually found it in Thailand, the English version. So that made it even more funny. Okay, Look Who's Back. But however, the cover you will recognize for sure. Do you have a movie, what I was just talking about, where you go like, oh, the book was so much better?
Oh, God, like all of them.
Like Lord of the Rings?
Well, no, I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan. I fell asleep.
Somehow I knew that.
Yeah, no, not at all. I'm trying to think of a good example. Well, I know that Clan of the Cave Bear was made into a movie, and I remember my mom had a copy of it, and she said it's not even worth watching. So I didn't want to ruin it for myself, so I never watched it. I can't think of pretty much every movie that I've read first as a book has been disappointing as a movie. I can't think of a single movie that I've been like, wow, that movie version was so much better than the book.
That movie was way better. I'm going to watch it again.
I don't think anyone's ever said that
Titanic,
ever.
ladies and gentlemen. I'm just joking. Do you have... Again, I'm losing my questions here because we drift off into all kinds of questions here.
Yeah.
But do you think that certain books can get like wines? They get better as older they get?
Well, no.
Why not?
No.
Because you develop as a person. Sorry, I interrupt, but I need to extend my explanation for this question. Because when I was 20, I thought I know the world, I know how everything works. Then I turned 25 and I realized, hey, wait a second, I don't know shit. But now I know everything because I know that I didn't know shit. Then I turned 30 and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, wait until you're 60.
Yeah, some things just become better with age, and some books are like that.
Okay, I thought you meant more like books from like 200 years ago. So books that you've read when you're young.
Well, the Bible always stays the same shit. So
I mean, the Bible's the same, and let's not get into that. But I mean, for me, like the older, like the Charles Dickens and the older authors, I can't really get into it because it's a certain type of English that we don't really speak anymore, and it doesn't come naturally reading it. So, I mean, definitely books I read 20 years ago. As I said, Clan of the Cave Bear, I appreciated it even more the second time round. I'm waiting for the Poisonwood Bible to get better, and I'm really sure that it will.
Come on, get better tomorrow. So, yeah, you definitely have a passion for Clan of the... What is the title? How do you pronounce it?
Clan of the Cave Bear.
Clan of the Cave Bear, because you reference it every time we talk about it.
Yeah, well, it's my favorite book, and the writing is so incredible, and it's a 5-book series, and I've read 4 of the 5 books, so that's why the thing is I got Clan of the Cave Bear, and then the 3rd, 4th, and 5th book for the Content Castle. So I cannot read anymore until I find that second book
Tricky.
So I'm desperately searching. I can't even remember the name of it, or I would say, so that someone could maybe help me out.
Well, we find it out because there's Google. There's always Google.
I suppose I could always just order it on Kindle.
You could. How dare you saying that? How dare you? Kindle is absolutely no-go. However, if somebody would come up to you and says, "Hey, Kaila, here is whatever amount of money you need to make it happen," what would you write about?
I think I would continue my book, Dawns of Copenhagen. I really think that that the concept works. I've taken a lot of elements of things that I've experienced. I have gotten a lot of positive feedback. I would rewrite it, and I'm pretty confident that it's unique and interesting enough of a plot that it could really take off. I think that, or my other non-fiction idea is I really want to write a girl's guide to Thailand.
A girl's guide to Thailand.
Yeah.
Very interesting for me to hear that as a guy, because I cannot relate to that at all. But at some point I can also realize, because that's something that I learned. Maybe I'm a late bloomer, but girls and boys are so fucking different.
So different.
You have no idea.
So different.
You have no idea.
And our experiences traveling is totally different. I mean, for example, like I don't even notice it when I walk down what I later learn is a street full of hooker massage places, and I don't even notice it. Whereas my fiance or one of my guy friends will be like, "Oh my God, they were trying to pull me into the shop." They don't do that to me. So that's a negative point for men there. Whereas there is
feminism and there is meninism. I don't know if you say it that way, but there is. It's very tough to be a man nowadays.
I don't know if it's that tough.
It is, because we cannot be who or what we are. If we are strong and self-confident, it always sounds. I'm not saying that everybody says it. I'm just saying that this is also stuff that ladies shouldn't forget. That we have to deal with the problem that we cannot be 100% who we are. And after all, we are nature. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we are dominant. We are strong. That's how you become a man. The problem with being a man is that you are not a man like you are a woman.
Yeah.
You get born, you're a girl, you become a woman. But with a man, you have to prove yourself that you are a man. So there's different paths. I'm not saying that one of them is better or worse, but I'm just saying you always have to realize there's two sides of the coin with whatever you do in life.
Yeah.
Let it be writing, because there's two sides of the pages. So don't waste your notebook, ladies and gentlemen. Think of the environment and use both pages. However, let's come back to a very, very interesting topic. I said it at the beginning of this podcast, and I need to talk about this. I'm sweaty, I'm nervous, I'm shaky. It's something that has to be brought to daylight. Kaila, your husband owns a water park.
Okay, fiance, first of all.
Well, husband, no pressure at all. But how awesome is that?
Yes, it's amazing. And Fraser, I hope you're listening. But yeah, so basically, I'm pretty sure that Steve-O would have rather interviewed Fraser than I.
Between you and me, 100%.
But yes, he's co-owner of Slip and Fly Water Park, and it's
on Koh Samui.
That's on Copenhagen, and it's a slide day party. It's super fun. They have DJs. They have slides with ramps that send you flying into the air and then into the biggest pool on Copenhagen, and it's super, super fun.
That sounds better than any Playboy mansion on the planet, ladies and gentlemen. I am all bread and butter for that.
Well, there are lots of hot girls there. It's true.
Well, that's a cool side effect, but it's about the water slides.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
But does he have anything to do with writing, or does he proofread your stuff, or is it a relationship where you say, okay, you stay in your water park territorium and I stay in my writing territorium?
Okay.
Kaila is very thoughtful right now. We might give her a minute here.
He's a very good writer, but he writes how he talks, which is he's very, very talkative.
Well, he's Scottish,
so
that could be difficult.
Well, exactly, yeah. So yeah, I mean, he's very wordy in his writing. He's actually a very good writer. His work he has done some work for us in the past that, I mean, of course, everything requires a heavy hand at first in terms of editing. But for someone with no training and very little experience, he's actually a very good writer.
Well, nothing less than my hats off to you guys, because it takes a lot of passion and patience and compromises to actually be in a relationship with somebody who does the same thing as you, but still is such an individual field. So nothing than my hats off. And Shout out to you for owning a water park, man. You, I don't know what to say. I have to change my life, that's for sure. I have to change my life. A water park sounds amazing. However, coming back to the content castle, because we have been recording for a little bit more than an hour.
Has it already been an hour?
I know, it goes so fast, doesn't it?
I haven't even finished my beer yet.
Well, we got served by Paul here, and Paul is waiting to come on the podcast back there, ladies and gentlemen. He's getting sweaty right now. I'm just joking around. I had a beer too much already, ladies, but I don't care. I love a good conversation, and like everything else, a good conversation needs a little bit more than just asking questions. Sure. So here's another question for you. What makes the Content Castle... What makes it different to so many other hostels, hotels, co-working spaces? Why is it really a castle? Okay. And not just another place?
Well, first of all, it's not a hostel, and it's not a hotel, and it's not a guest house, and we don't market ourselves as that for a reason, and that's because you don't pay to stay here. You don't pay physical cash anyway. So the concept is that people, they have to apply. We have to see either raw talent, or if they're already published, even better. And we have to see, they have to be native English speakers. So there is...
Why? Sorry that I have to interrupt, but that is very, very hashtag racist here. There is plenty of good writers out there that are non-native English speakers.
Absolutely. I do not deny that for a second, but unfortunately the market that we are targeting in terms of reselling our content is demanding native English speakers. Understood. So we would love to open up the Content Castle to different languages, and when, and I'm not saying if, I'm saying when it becomes super successful, we absolutely will. It'll be available in Germany, in Hungary, Sweden,
Hey, Sverige.
Wherever.
But I like the idea that you have to apply, and that's another question that I have on my mind. I'm full of questions, my apologies, but no offense, we are the same age, so I include myself, but we went through our 20s, we learned a lot, we fought a lot to get our work out there, but now we slowly but surely entering a stage of age where we have to realize that it's not only about us, it's also about passing on our experience and our knowledge. What is important for you to pass on to the next generation?
I mean, I still feel like I'm the current generation, so I
that's how I
really
feel,
thought about that.
There are people on this planet who are 17, 18 thinking I want to be a writer.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the main thing, and this was one of my main inspirations for opening up the Content Castle, is that it gives you the experience that you need without having to pay for it. There's a lot of internships that you have to pay to be an intern, to pour people coffee and stuff like that. You have to take a
side job. And
this is a place that if you get through the application process, we will take you in. You get a private room, you get 2 meals a day, and you turn out 10,000 words a week for us. That work is heavily, at first, usually heavily edited, which gives you then feedback. It also gives you experience in the field. And sometimes, not always, sometimes it gives you a byline. Some of our clients don't allow that. And from there, that's why we say, and this is our slogan, is your rite of passage, right? WRITE. So it's sort of like the way to get into being a digital nomad writer.
Oh, Paul is looking at you angry there, I see, because he said he hates this word, digital nomad.
Oh, no.
I love to involve Paul in the conversation because he doesn't want to be on the podcast. But, yeah, he has nothing to say. Well, he has a lot to say, but he's not in front of the mic. No. So you have to come closer and join us if you want to make your perspective heard, my friend. You're a cool guy, man. I like you. So one of the benefits, if you come and if you make it to the Content Castle, if you're special enough, if you're cool enough, if you belong to the cool kids, I'm just joking. You get to work with awesome people, Kaila and Paul, who are very interesting characters. And that is something I was really looking forward to when you invited me down here to the island, because something was telling me, well, basically your website was telling me, because when I visited your website, the way you introduce your website is amazing.
With the video?
The video and the way you explain what this is, it's just amazing. Who gave you this idea? So, sorry, before you answer, if you're listening, take a short break, go to the website, which I list below in the description here on YouTube, and then come back and listen to the explanation of Kaila.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, I mean, because I decided to call it the Content Castle because, I mean, you've seen the outside of it. It kind of looks like a castle, and the words just kind of fit together. And so, and because it's pretty big, so it feels like a castle to me. And then because of the Content Castle name, that kind of inspired me to think, okay, fairy tale, you know, whatever. So then, and I'm pretty good at doing sort of Dr. Seuss type poems. So I wrote this sort of fairy tale script, and we had this wonderful videographer Ilya come down, and he shot some video for us, and then my friend Rob in Bangkok, he edited it for us. That's hard to say.
It's tough, even for a native English speaker. Yes, I don't feel
I've
so
only
bad
had
anymore.
3 beers. Anyway, yeah. So it all came together, and originally we were going to put my voice, but I said I wanted it to have the voice to be a British accent because that feels more sort of fairy tale-y to me. Yeah. So Rob asked his friend to do it. So it was a huge group effort to do this video. And I mean, I wrote the content for the website, and you know, we're still building the business. You know, we've only been open for about 6 months now.
You actually opened in March, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was not too long ago.
No, not too long ago, exactly. So
what is the hardest thing with opening a place like this? What was your biggest boundary now from writing into business, actually?
Well, by far the biggest boundary has been that I can't say this 100%, but I'm pretty sure this is the first of its kind in the world. So and I'm not saying that to big myself up. That's actually been a hurdle because people don't really understand it. They're like,
what is it? Why writers? What do you want? Do you want them to write, or you want them to
exactly.
take a room? Yeah, I can understand.
We get a lot of people writing us making comments like, oh, it's probably super expensive, or you know, whatever, and it's not. It's free. I mean, it's not free because
if
you have to
have the talent.
Yeah, you have to have the talent, and you have to have the devotion to be willing to write, you know, a certain amount of words for us every week. But I mean, to be honest, if you're a good and speedy writer, you can do it in between 10 and 20 hours. Then you have the rest of your time to do your own thing, and whether that's freelance writing or whether that's going and sitting by the pool
or the beach.
But that's been by far the biggest hurdle, that I don't think anyone's ever done something like this before, so people don't get the concept.
Do you believe in talent, or do you believe in hard work?
I believe in both. I believe my number one quality that I look for in employees or residents is passion, because passion cannot be taught. So I can teach writing, I can teach editing, I can teach you can even teach drive. I mean, sort of, in a way, but passion is totally different. And when you see someone's passion for writing, even if they're not a good writer, it still either breaks my heart when I have to tell them no, or I'm just being a softie and I just say yes anyway.
No, but sometimes you have to be a real friend and have to tell the truth, just like it is. And in my personal opinion, I think there should be driver licenses for everything, for having a kid, for being allowed to enter an airplane. I can just keep on going and going. But ladies and gentlemen, if you have been listening to this podcast, and if you like to write, and if you like to travel the world, and this is not a plug, this is even though you invited me over here for a photo shoot and we did the podcast and everything, I go with what I experience, and I really enjoy the vibe that is in here. I say it one more time, with you and Paul, both of you cool characters, your staff, amazing food. It's a cool location. It's I haven't seen too many tourists around, to be honest.
No, it's a very authentically Thai area, very quiet part of Koh Samui.
Yeah, I take a step outside the door, then I take another step, and I'm immediately at the ocean with cute little puppies, by the way. We saw them so today. Started to lick my camera. I don't know. I don't know. The only one who's allowed to make love to my camera is myself. So, dear dog, stay off my camera. However, what I'm trying to say, if you are a writer, if you love writing, if you love good company, and if you love a good place, the Content Castle in Koh Samui is the place to be. And how to get there, how to apply, Kaila, tell us, where can we find you?
So you can go to our website, which I believe is in the show notes, but it's contentcastle.asia/apply. And from there, I mean, you can kind of just go through the steps that it asks you to go through. But basically, we ask for 3 pieces, 3 writing samples, your CV, and a cover letter, or even better, which I much prefer to see, is a cover video, which we've received a couple of. And as soon as I see them, one guy who applied, he was German. And he was one of our first applicants, and he was very obviously not a native English speaker. But
there it is, ladies and gentlemen.
But listen to the but. The but is that I basically wrote him back and said, you know what, you're not a native English speaker, but I love your passion. And I want to accept you. And he wrote me back and said, I'm so gutted because I got his message too late. It had gone to my spam. And he said, I'm so gutted. I'm already back in Germany.
God damn it.
I don't think he said gutted. I don't think Germans say gutted. But anyway,
again,
something like
you're so racist tonight, Kaila. I'm just joking. No, but sometimes I can understand the perspective why a native English speaker, not because of you, but because of your clients require that. But something that I experienced in my young career is you have to put in the work. If you are not a native English speaker, then you have to make yourself sound like one. It's all about passion, that what you said before, and it's about the hard work you put in. Nothing comes for free in life, especially not the best opportunities or moments. You might have one or might have 2, but you want to have them for the rest of your life, because your life is the most important thing that you have. So don't listen to what others say. Sometimes, let me correct, sometimes you should listen. It's a feeling that you have in your stomach. You know what I mean, right? So just try to be yourself and try to be an awesome person. Kaila, you are for sure an awesome person. Same goes out to Paul, who disappeared.
Yeah, where's Paul?
I think he was too afraid for the ending that we might get him on the show.
Maybe he's getting me a beer.
However, I really enjoyed this podcast, Kaila. We can find you on your website, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. You want to plug them real quick?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Blonde Traveler. So at Blonde Traveler on Instagram, that's with 1 L. At Blonde Traveler with an underscore between the blonde and the traveler on Twitter. And then Facebook, you can just find me at Kaila DK. So KAILA DK.
That was easy, but if you didn't have a paper or pen next to you, we're gonna put everything below in the description here on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a wonderful chat with you, Kaila. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, and shout out to the Content Castle for hosting this podcast and supporting this podcast by having us. So hats off once again. If I could, I have headphones on, so that doesn't really work. I'm gonna have another beer. If you like this podcast, please make sure to subscribe to Kaila, to the Content Castle, also to this podcast, Surrounded by Details podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, SoundCloud, where you can download all our episodes for free. You can also find us on YouTube, but iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, SoundCloud is for free, so shut the fuck up. It is for free, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy. Don't get overexcited.
Just do it.
Exactly. Just do it. Oh, you're plugging Nike here. Whoa. Now Nike. I actually just got into shoes and stuff like that. So, but that is a different episode for another time.
I saw you on the sand today.
Well, I hopefully we have you back on the podcast.
I'd love to be back.
Shout out to my listeners for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. That was it for the Surrounded by Details podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. That's it from Koh Samui. Much love. Stay awesome. Be cool. And if you're not cool, be awesome. You see, it's the devil's loop. Have an awesome time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Kaila.
Thanks, guys.